Well, it seems like this video might be useless because I've been playing against KHONSHU constantly, so it seems like already everybody's already picked him up. But if you have not picked up KHONSHU, or if you did and you're looking for what decks to play him in, here's your final moments in the last little bit over 24 hours before KHONSHU is no longer in the spotlight cache or able to pick him up with collector's tokens before the season reset. So let's just look into the data. I'll talk about my experience and then give you some deck ideas, help you complete those weekend missions in the last few moments if you need. And then we'll have the new season upon us. And then we may need to stop doing these as things change with the snap packs and the huge changes coming to card acquisition. Before we get into the data, I have to again say thank you to everybody who helped me achieve my goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers before April 1st, which is my daughter's birthday. This last Saturday, we celebrated her birthday with some family and friends, and it was an amazing feeling to have constantly on my mind that I achieved my goal, that I reached 1,000 subscribers before that. It's just truly a phenomenal experience to be able to reach that goal, which I genuinely could not do without any of you. So thank you. But let's get into KHONSHU and the data that we have for him. Kind of expected. His popularity is pretty high, 29.1%. Looking at last week, Firehair had a 23.9% popularity, so even more popular. And I thought Firehair was pretty popular. I think that's would be expected. I've been playing against KHONSHU constantly. I'm sure this number is even higher if we were to include people who don't track their data on Untapped. Like I really feel like KHONSHU is everywhere. I feel like it's a card that people really picked up. And because of that, you can see that the win rate and cube rate are both lower. Again, about the position of Firehair at a 49% win rate and a negative 0.03 cube rate, which is interesting. I think that's because people have been really kind of experimenting with KHONSHU. I think people started to counter KHONSHU because they were annoyed with it. I think that people were trying to go for like the crazy nut draws with KHONSHU where you revive a Brood at 32 power. It's just, I don't think that this week is a good example of what KHONSHU's stats really should be because, one, tons of people were playing with him. Tons of people were experimenting with him. KHONSHU versus KHONSHU is also not a good representation of data or the card's ability. I also think that we weren't refining the decks that we were playing. And so this lower win rate and cube rate is understandable. So my rating of the card here initially at the Keys Decisions video, which another one will be coming about for the April season, but I rated him 6 stars. I decided that 5 was enough, that I was extremely excited for KHONSHU, and so I gave him 6. My current rating is that I still give him 6, and that is on like the fun scale. I have had so much fun with KHONSHU. I've enjoyed this card. I love discard. I love these types of cards that KHONSHU brings, and I've just been having a ton of fun with him. Yes, I've been countered like crazy, and he hasn't won a lot for me. He also has won a lot for me. So that's why the potential rating, I think the potential should be changed to like realistic. I think the realistic rating is that he's a 4-star card. He's not a 5-star card. He misses sometimes. The decks aren't like whopping the meta in any way, but he is super fun. And the decks that you play KHONSHU in realistically are also extremely fun. And so from like a playment and enjoyment standpoint, he's a 6-star card for me. In reality, I think he's like his performance both now and moving forward is a 4-star card where he's good. He adds power to his archetypes. He adds powers to the decks that he's in, but he's not, a crushing card, and he's not the greatest card to come. And he's also very niche in where I think he's going to realistically apply. And we'll see that as we look at the decks here. Which, starting with the number 1 most performing deck according to win rate, is just a basic Dracula APOC discard that we've used to seeing with the cards of Morbius and Dracula and Apocalypse, MODOK, those types of things. But you also have KHONSHU, which is just like a fun way to make up for the problem that MODOK often brings, that like you have the turn 5 can be awkward depending on when or if you were able to play your Dracula. And so you can MODOK on turn 5 and then play KHONSHU on 6 and revive that Dracula that you discarded. It's interesting to me that this is the one that is truly the highest win rate. It includes the likes of Ghost Rider as well, which I thought was interesting. There's other versions of this that, switch out different cards. So instead of having Ghost Rider, you have Silver Samurai, or you have Proxima. Instead of having Gambit, you have the Collector, and you have Swarm in here. Like all those discard cards that just, piece here and there swapped in or out, but this is the exact version that has the highest win rate, even though its cube rate is kind of mediocre. We move on to the next one here, which is again another version of a Dracula APOC discard, but it includes Iron Man and has the first Ghost Rider. And it's kind of interesting. It's a weird combination of like that nut draw that people were looking for, that we were all thinking about on day 1 with KHONSHU, of Iron Man and Gore, which I actually have lost to that combo a lot. of KHONSHU reviving Gore. However, this is just like an also more consistent version with Dracula and Apocalypse, which is an interesting combination of the two, like the reliable discard where we thought KHONSHU would be good, and then like the crazy KHONSHU, but it combined the two to create a pretty consistent deck. The next one, which really surprised me, is just the basic Bullseye discard deck that I'm really kind of sick of playing against, which is fine. Like, it's a super strong deck. I can't really think of any other deck that goes as crazy high as this deck does. It's just kind of boring for me to play against because I'm not a huge tech card guy, and so if I get a matchup against this, there's not a lot of ways for me to shut it down. That aside, it's interesting to me that KHONSHU fits in this archetype, but it also makes sense. If there's something that you discarded that you didn't want to, like let's say you had to discard your Mobius because your pace, or your Meek because your pace wasn't right, you can revive them with KHONSHU. Also, if you're just discarding Swarms or you're discarding the Shards from Dokken, those being revived at 8 or 12 power, you're not going to complain about. So, not surprised. We move on to the next one here, which is like Collector discard. This is similar to my deck. Its win rate is barely above 50% and only has a 0.01 cube rate, but it's KHONSHU with Helicarrier Collector Swarm stuff, which is cool. Like, it's cool that the Helicarrier archetype of discard, which has been non-existent, now kind of exists because of KHONSHU. So those are the 4 decks that you have this week. The highest performing one, again, is this pretty much just Dracula APOC discard. And there were probably, like, before we even got to this Iron Man Apocalypse discard, there were like 4 or 5 different versions of this Dracula APOC classic discard that just had those various discard pieces switched in, like I mentioned. Proxima, Silver Samurai, Swarm, even Wolverine, taking out Ghost Rider, those types of things. Potentially different discard options. And then we have the last which hasn't even earned a cube, just barely sitting at a 51% win rate, and that is just like a Hela. But with KHONSHU, I think that the other version of Hela that you are playing is better than this one, but it's where we're at. And then the last one that is also my deck, which I'll show you the stats that I have for it separately. And this is the collective stats, 720 games, which is cool. I think that came from people adopting it from the video that I made. And I think, I'll come back to that. This is a similar version to what you said of the collector one, but instead of having the collector, it focuses on Victoria Hand. And is a ton of fun. I've really been enjoying this deck. I also saw a version, if you don't have all of these cards, that did particularly well, where you take out Proxima and put in the collector. I played a version of that as well, and it does well that way as well. That was a lot of as wells. So my deck, my stats with, as you can see, I did not play 720 games, but played quite a few and have a pretty significant win rate with it at a 70%. That is also not including all the games on my phone. Gold Conquest that I won, I almost won. An Infinite Conquest, I lost it for the silliest reason. Victoria Hand no longer buffs cards that come to you from the Mindscape. She used to. I don't think that was intentional, the same way that she used to buff, like, if your opponent played an Acid Arrow on you and it switched sides, she would buff their Acid Arrow. I think it was similar to that, where it was like an inconsequential buff that she was giving, and so that no longer happens. I was not aware of that. I thought she still did, and so I was banking my win on those cards having the buff from Victoria Hand, and they did not. I ended up losing by 1 point in that second location, and then they won the tiebreaker, and I lost my infinite border that I could have got for the first time, which is such a bummer. But that was through this deck, which has been doing a phenomenal job for me that I have really enjoyed and been a lot of fun. The other deck that I have been playing, I have actually not been playing. It is from someone in my alliance named Daniel. He said that this is his favorite version of KHONSHU. I have not played a single game with it. I should have tested it out. But he says it's been performing really well for him and been a lot of fun. So go check that out. I will say as well that where did it go? Like this version of discard, or the this one, the Iron Man with Ghost Rider and Gore, has been just kicking my trash. It's kicking my butt. If I play against this, I'm losing to the KHONSHU into Gore combo, but it's really ridiculous that every single time I play it, I'm always losing with it. I don't think I won a single game with a version of KHONSHU discard that included the likes of Iron Man and Gore. Even if I went for like a more reasonable version of it like this, I lost every time. And I think it's because I'm outside of my meta assignment. I've talked about that before. I've been quite frustrated with the meta the last week or so, week and a half. The KHONSHU and the craziness that everyone playing KHONSHU brought out really kind of saved that. It made it quite enjoyable, but the end of the season was a bit of the bummer with the state of the meta. Nonetheless, that is my feelings on KHONSHU. This deck has just been extremely fun. This is the deck that I've been playing. I play it just for fun anyway because it's just ridiculous fun, and it's like a combination of my two favorite archetypes of discard and Victoria Hand. So it's just a lot of fun. So to the question of the video that is quite hard for me, do I recommend that you pick up KHONSHU? I think you probably already have if you are even interested in the card, but if you've been on the fence and you're waiting this late, which, good for you. This is when we have the most data. I'll say, do you like discard? If you do, he's going to be a part of discard for the future, whether that's the reliable Dracula APOC discard or the Victoria Hand Collector, Helicarrier discard or anything else. He is going to be a part of those discard shells moving forward because he's good in them. He's not if you're missing him or you're missing, I'm trying to think of somebody else, like Scorn. I think Scorn is a bigger piece to those to those discard archetypes that KHONSHU is. However, he's definitely going to be included in those shells moving forward because he's good in discard and also a lot of fun. So kind of a shorter video, as I figured a lot of people had already made up their mind about KHONSHU. I've been playing against him like crazy. But thanks for being here. Subscribe if you are not already. We're going to have, of course, the promised videos of my wife rating Marvel Snap cards and then also playing a game against me in Conquest, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then we also have my Keys Decisions, which might be the last time as we have Snap packs coming out. Talk about what cards I'm planning on spending my keys on this season. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate every single one of you and hope your next game in Marvel Snap is a ton of fun. Thanks for watching.